hats off to Poch for doing that.
Yeah.
And one of the I don't mean to keep going back to this, but we were talking about the Lloris thing. They said, well, who are you going to put in goal? And I said, well, say it is somebody who's just one of your average run-of-the-mill Premiership goalkeepers, which they're all really good. I mean, quite
and we
honestly,
got a better than average one sitting on the bench.
Yeah, we do. We actually do.
Form isn't a slouch.
But I said, do you need him that much if you still have Bale on the left? If you have a world-class winger on the left or the right, it pulls everybody even that much further off of Kane. If you have Hazard, if you have Silva, and I touched on this last week, I think that winger means so much. Chadley is going to continue to score goals, and he's continued to come in more toward the box, I think. And I don't see him being unseated barring injury. The death of his father was unfortunate because it pulled him off the pitch when he was hot. He's refound his form. I thought he's played really well since being put back into the squad. Townsend seems to have supplanted himself on the right side now. Unseated Lamela. Lamela struggled again today when he came on the pitch, gave the ball out. He made a couple of, fighting for the ball type things. Townsend's hit or miss. And I think that spot on the right is wide open. So if you have somebody that you can bring in and put them on that right side, or if you're willing to just, listen, we're sticking with our boys, we're going to shore up the back, and we're going to learn how to play this style of system. Listen, Poch is going to bring in a couple of players. Bar none, when we know that that's going to happen in the off season. But I just firmly believe if we had a world class, you don't have to go out and spend $100 million. That's not going to happen with us.
Well, we're not very good at that.
No, we're not. But if we're going to compete, listen, if we're going to keep up with the Joneses, if we're going to just continue to compete with Chelsea and City, and we want to, listen, top four is great. We want to win the damn league. I want to win the league as a supporter. Everybody who's listening to this wants to win the league as a supporter. How over the friggin' top would that be? As little Tottenham Hotspur, shows up and slays the Giants. I mean,
I think that we could be changing the model, and I really do, and I really do. I mean, look, we played a League Cup final with 5 academy players in our starting 11.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's a change in football because look, you can't have lasting leagues if you only have 2 or 3 mega giant clubs that can splash the cash around. It's just not healthy for football. There has to be a way for other clubs to be competitive, and I think Southampton has shown a way. And frankly, if it didn't mean anything, we wouldn't have hired Paul Mitchell. I think this is the future of this game. I really do.
Yeah.
Fits within our economic model as well.
Yeah, that's a great segue into some sound bites that came out of Poch's press conference yesterday for the QPR game. That this is very bad news for our US listeners that he would prefer, it's not in concrete, but he would prefer that, and almost guaranteed there will not be a pre-season tour out of the UK. Certainly not.
Amen. I'm all for it.
Well, and I think,
selfish
reasons aside, because we did talk about the rumor of them being the MLS All-Star opponents.
In Denver, yeah.
This is probably what we want to hear, to give him a pre-season based in the UK, traveling to stadiums around England, maybe Ireland, Scotland, and getting in a full slate of pre-season games. We really did not play a lot of pre-season games. That tour was 10 days, 12 days. There was 3 matches. They went back and I think they played one more game. And they only played a couple before they flew over, and some of those were Spurs 11 preseason games. And that really is not a lot of preseason games for the first 11. There's normally a lot more than that. And I feel that this would benefit Poch. It would benefit the players without the travel, without the distractions of everything that they did on that US tour, which was great for us. It's great for us US supporters and Canadian supporters to be able to have that opportunity to see the players and watch the team. But we need to really, really springboard into the 2015-16 season with an awesome preseason under our belt, going into those games, carrying on from wherever this season ends, and really attacking that top 4 and giving everyone a serious run for their money if it means that we have a tilt at the title.
I agree with that. I mean, I would honestly, I want him to get a rest. because these kids are going to be flat knackered at the end of this. I mean,
well,
he has...
considering the following year is the Euros,
right.
And we know at this point, if Harry keeps doing what he's doing, he's gone that summer. So I know there's been talk this week of him not being involved in the U21s, but if he's not involved in that, he's going to be in the England setup, and that's probably better for him. I would like him, personally, I would like him to not be involved in these upcoming games at the end of the month, but to be included in the end of the season and not in the U21 tournament that's coming up this summer. That would be ideal. But we know there's probably going to be some other players. I wouldn't be surprised if Dyer's in the U21 competition.
Yeah.
So
and speaking of that,
every summer.
Yeah, and speaking of U's, congrats to the FA Youth Cup squad U18s for knocking off Chelsea 2-0. Cameron Carter Vickers, U.S. under-21 national, played as a rock, from what I understand, in the back. Wow. And a beautiful toe poke goal from Sterling. Beat them 2-0. So congrats to the kids. They move
first
on.
Leg. They still
first leg, yeah, first leg.
And a couple things to note about that game. Sounded like, by all accounts, it was not just a win, but a comfortable win. And the entire, and I think I have this right. Well, actually, one of the stands, either the East stands or West stand, was completely full, and also many, or a good handful of senior players, including and Pochettino, were watching.
And Mason was there, and Walker and Townsend.
Bentaleb was there.
Yeah.
Mason was there.
What a big deal, man! But
they've not forgotten where they came from.
That's
Absolutely.
Exactly right.
Yeah, and it sort of speaks to my comment about, I think, how our future is not going to be built on spending £200 million on players every 2 or 3 years. It's from doing this, and that model's been validated. And of course, thank God for Tim Sherwood, or none of this would ever be possible.
I was surprised he hasn't claimed Pochettino's winning percentage as his own.
100%. It's all Sherwood. It's all due to Sherwood. 100%.
All right. Laughs and giggles aside. This week we lost Dave Mackay. I got a text from Simon, and that was it. I was done. I was absolutely shattered for the rest of the night. I haven't cried like that since I lost my grandfather. Go figure. Someone I've never met, never saw play. It's just folklore, books, video, but it crushed me. He was and is will always be my favorite person ever to pull the shirt on. Entitling the podcast after him, A Week of 6 Points for number 6. But Simon, I want to start with you. Basically, you kind of mentioned to me in a text, this is all that remains of the 61 double side. It's 5 players now, 6 maybe.
No, it's 5.
5.
We've lost Bill Brown, Blanche Flower, John White. This year, obviously, we've lost Henry and Mackay, and we've lost another one. Oh, I'm doing him a disservice by not remembering. But there are only 5. Sorry, it was Bobby Smith. Mm-hmm. Five that are left are Norman, Baker, Jonesy, Dyson, and Les Allen. And of course, obviously, we lost the boss. So that's one hell of a 6-a-side team up in heaven. And for, as much as I'm an old fart, I obviously never saw any of the 60s team play, but grew up on the legends that they were, and have done my due diligence watching enough video and obviously reading up on Dave Mackay to know that he was just made of, they don't say oak, they refer to him as teak. You can't get much of a harder wood than that. And people talk about the infamous photograph of him pretty much pulling Billy Bremner up off the ground, and he hated that because it portrayed him as a bully. I wouldn't say he hated it. He did dislike the photo for that reason. However, if he ever did an official signing, guess what photo he was signing? And I proudly have a copy of that signed by Dave Mackay on my wall, and will treasure that forever because of what he meant for the team. I think Greavesy had said that he was by far Bill Nicholson's best signing for the team. He completed the team that was to go on to make history in the early 60s, and Bill was very clinical in his, I don't want to say disposal of players, but if he knew that they were done, he cut and run immediately, and obviously he did that with Mackay after the '67 season, I think, and then he went on to play for Derby and became. Well,
Yeah.
he was a player of the season, player of the year for them when they won promotion, and I'm not too sure if they won the title the following year, but it was pretty soon after that, playing for Cloughie. And
that's right, yeah.
then when Clough went to Leeds, I believe, Mackay took over and won the league as a manager. Mm-hmm. So what a man, and it's sadly ironic because it was prior to the cup final last week. I was watching the 125-year DVD, and I'd made a comment to you guys that so many people in just the last 8 years since that was made have passed away, whether it be Trigger, Bobby Smith, Ralph Coates, Darky Nicholson, and now of course we lost Dave Mackay, who features prominently in that as well. And obviously he was a sprightly septuagenarian in that DVD, and obviously he fell to Alzheimer's in his later years, but he's an icon, and the tributes that came out all through Monday and on were truly touching. I did get a little misty-eyed myself as I was trying to do some tributes on behalf of Dallas Spurs, and obviously sending you that text because I was starting to hear rumors of this, and you know how social media is, but the minute that Rob White had tweeted, you knew it was legit, and that's when my heart sunk, and I couldn't type. It was horrible, and it just the memories coming back from 5 days ago, 6 days ago, it kind of gets you choked up again, because I felt the same way about Bobby Smith, because he was such a rock for us back then, and the whole double team were awesome, but there were probably 4 or 5 players in that 60-61 season that you have to put up there above all else, probably in the history of the club, and I'm not going to rattle them off right now, and that's just my opinion, but Dave Mackay is in there, Danny Blanchflower too, and we've lost those guys, and for the remaining 5 year, hang on, lads, because we love you, and we want you to stick around and represent the club as much as you can. I know Jonesy does it all the time as a club ambassador, and to see the legends that were lining up on Wednesday night before the Swansea game to pay tribute, it was just awesome. Yeah,
and we mentioned, obviously he played for Hearts, which was his hometown club growing up. The Spurs, obviously, and then on to Derby, but let's not forget there's other clubs in there that he had shorter stints with: Birmingham City, Walsall, Nottingham Forest, Swindon, that got a little bit of recognition, at least from me. I tweeted out some things, and I included all the hashtags for those club official sites because he's part of their history too. For as much as I want to just wrap my arms around him as part of the history and say, nope, you can't have any, I'm not sharing, he's part of their history as well. And I wanted to include them. Sam, do you have anything that you want to mention about Dave Mackay?
No, other than just the fact that he to me, is the greatest player we've really ever had. I think of all the great players that we've had in our history that I've either seen firsthand or have known about or read about, and he just seems the one player that embodies that one quality or trait of all those individual great players. He had it all, and he was our leader, and I think he's the one irreplaceable player in the club's most successful team ever, and that's what it is for me.
Yeah, the day after Simon texted me, and then we got all the confirmations on Twitter, and I kind of laid there in bed that night, and I thought about what I wanted to say, because I felt that it was going to be something important to do on the podcast, and I hope that the other podcasts, and if they don't, to each his own, do something similar. With God bless her, with Stacey passing away, it's a little rough because a lot of things are going to be centered around her, as they should. But I could have typed pages and pages and pages about how I felt. But if you guys will bear with me, I want to read you what I wrote when I sat down in a Starbucks on a very dreary, rainy afternoon and just typed this out. It's just a simple Dave Mackay tribute from myself. On March 2nd, 2015, unabashedly, I wept when hearing of Dave Mackay's passing. Trying to describe emotions and feelings for a man I've never met, never saw play,